All right, welcome to Owning the Goal. This is a podcast that helps you take charge of your life success. I'm your host, Brian McFarland, and I look forward to sharing insights and inspiration from my 40-year sales career as a sales leader. Like you, I'm more than just a salesperson, which is why this isn't a podcast just about sales. I will talk with very special guests, like we have today, about other interests too: mental health, physical fitness, and people's attitude on life, because success in goals is success in life. So today, on this beautiful Thursday in New York, this will be published later, but I have Susan Robbins. Susan, this is some bio. Susan is a retired law enforcement officer and an accomplished certified epigenetic human performance coach with a diverse and extensive background in wellness. She began her wellness career in 2015 as a holistic health and stress management coach. Her passion for helping others led her to expand her expertise into epigenetics in 2019, where she discovered the missing piece of the health optimization puzzle: personalized health. As a certified integrative nutrition health coach, certified level 2 Aperon, I might have to be corrected on that, Zoe epigenetic human performance coach, DNA, and certified PH 360 coach through Precision Health Alliance, Susan has developed a unique approach to health and wellness through completely personalized health. She's the proud recipient of the 2023 Precision Health Alliance Coach of the Year Award. She works with clients to elevate their health and overall quality of life by understanding their unique needs based on their genetic makeup, taking out the guesswork and getting results. That being said, welcome to the show, Susan. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. Great vibe.
My goodness, that's that. I feel like I've been doing nothing my life after reading that. So what I'd love you, I've listened to so many of your shows. I've learned a lot. I'm so curious. But what I'd really love to just hand the mic over to you is really starting off with your personal journey in life and how you wound up in the place that I'm so lucky to be talking to you now.
Oh my God, how much time do we have then, Brian? It's been a bumpy ride. But I think with any life journey, there's been times when it's been coasting and life is just kind of grooving along, and then there's those times when you feel like you have hit that bottom, professionally, personally, health-wise, and then there's times where you're like, oh my God, could life even get any better? I'm here. And so that has been the story of my life in a nutshell. I lost my mother at an early age, and that really changed, I think, the trajectory of my life. I was never the skinny little girl. I never was. Started dieting at the age of 12. I've talked about that on my podcast and other people's podcasts. And I mean, I remember you're around the same age as I am. So I don't know if you remember when the Cambridge diet came out, and it was, right, the powder, liquid diet, right? I was doing that at 12 years old because I looked different than everybody else. And this was like the Twiggy years, coming out of the Twiggy years. And there was no shape. And here I was, like, built like a woman at the age of 12, trying to lose weight just so I could fit in. And then I lose my mother right after I turned 14. So then you're different again. So I think that one of the biggest parts of my life journey was trying to fit in and be just like everybody else. And whether it was through my weight, through trying to figure out my careers, and I kind of did a little bit of everything under the sun until I dabbled in the corporate world, physical therapy world. I tried everything, and 9/11 happened. And being from New Jersey, and I had friends working in New York, I was actually living here in Denver. But I was watching, I went to that Monday Night Football game, Denver and the New York Giants, the night before. Perfect evening. So I was running late to get started. I was in sales at the time, corporate sales in telecom. And so I was running behind, getting ready, and watched the towers come down live. And frantically trying to reach people. And I thought, God, I feel so helpless. And I said, I need to do something that's going to make a difference. And I was traveling at the time, but pretty much every week, every other week. I was on the planes all the time. And I thought, I want to at least know how to fight back. Not much you can do in a plane, but, And so I started looking at law enforcement at the age of 36 and got into the Aurora, had a much better reputation in 2002 than it does now. But Aurora, Colorado, very hard to get into. It was over 400 of us that applied, and I think it was 38 of us. There were some lateral transfers, but 38 of us got in as recruits. It was a long, difficult process getting in. And, but I felt like I was called to that. And then it was that belonging, right? First feeling like I can make a difference. And I literally went into it to make a difference. I thought, if I can help one person or save one life, however I do it, that's more than most people can say they've done in a lifetime. And so it was part of that. And then everybody talked about the brotherhood. And that, again, that longing, right? Craving that. So I go in and parts of it had the brotherhood, and then other parts of it, it was like, you still don't belong here. So I got married, moved to Montana, transferred departments up there. I went from a department that was over 500 officers to one that I was car 15. And it was the good old boys in this little podunk Montana town. So I didn't fit in. And I was like the fit girl. I worked out all the time. And those guys they even said this, like, oh, I have to let another belt notch out because Dairy Queen's open for the summer now. There was no fitness requirement out of their academy, which was very substandard to what I went to. And the county wouldn't pay for fitness testing. And it's like, if you're not fit, you're a liability to the department, to other officers, to the civilians. That was my thinking. But anyway, so again, I didn't fit in. I was always like different. But after a couple of years, I got assigned to work with public housing on special assignment. And in the meantime, but leading up to health coaching, this is how I got into the health coach part, I had always felt that I was a night person. I would stay up late, get up later, I could party till dawn. And I never had a problem with it, but I started drinking to fit in when I was 14. And so I had a history of that, but which fit in great in the first responder world. It was the worst. So, I'll try to not make this too long a story, but I volunteered for a graveyard shift because I thought, I do great at night. So for quite a while I worked graveyards, and I never had energy. Like, I would push through, do my workouts, but I was always tired. And while I was in this department where I did not fit in as the only female officer, with the good old boys, and being the fit person with most of them that just didn't care, it was pretty tough. But I got assigned to work with public housing, and so I ended up specializing in crimes against children. And after about 10 years of that, it got to be a lot. And within that period of those 10 years, I discovered CrossFit, and I would go after work. So I would go do CrossFit like 5:30, 6:30 at night, high intensity, and then come home. And again, I never felt good. I just never felt really good. I always just pushed through. I was just tired. And I would have all these weird things happening to me. And I went to orthopedics, physical therapy, chiropractors, massage people, naturopathic physicians. Nobody could figure out exactly what was happening, but I knew something wasn't right. I was having cardiovascular issues, rapid heart rates, so many connective tissue joint. I have pictures of me covered in that rock tape from the chiropractor to go to CrossFit because I had so many issues. So by 2015, I'm burnt out. I'm miserable. I don't have kids, so I thought working with crimes against children wouldn't be an issue, but that was not the case. It started really taking its toll on me. You can't unhear things, and you can't unsee things. And it was just enough. And luckily, at that time, it changed the year after. Timing's everything. One of the guys said to me, because I was getting ready to turn 50, and he said, do you know you can retire at 50 here? You don't have to put in your 20. And I was 14 in. And I said, are you kidding me? And I'm done. So put in my notice after I turned 50. Right? So also in 2015, I met a holistic nutritionist. I actually met her earlier, and then got into seeing naturopaths and everything, still trying to figure out what was wrong with me. I'm taking like every supplement you can think of. And she got me onto just changing up some foods, because I had been told, like, since the 1980s, it's the fat. Eat high carb, go low fat, that's the key. Come to find out, not for my body. But I started changing some things up there, and I thought, my God, I'm actually feeling better. There's some weight coming off of me. And I thought, I started posting things on Facebook, and people were saying, my gosh, you're helping me. Posting recipes, you're talking about food. And I thought, all right, are there careers in food and fitness? Now, this was even a few months before I heard about this retirement thing. And so I enrolled in Institute of Integrative Nutrition, IIN, for a basic health coach certification, which took a year. And so I got into that, and I was loving it. I was like, this is everything I've been learning. This is just kind of solidifying what I've been learning. And I retire. The day I retired was the day I graduated from IIN, got my certification. I had no business plan, which to this day, I don't have a business plan, like 9 years later. But I was just like, had no idea what to do, but I just started coaching full time. And that's how I got into it. And just seeing the difference in people. But I put everybody paleo to start with, and in this meantime, 2016, I'm coaching full time. I get diagnosed with Lyme disease. That was my contributor since 2006. So or 2005. So it took 11 years to diagnose me. I got it twice. I even had a bullseye rash after I got stung by a hornet. One thing that people need to know about Lyme, the most common transmission is through a tick, but it can be anything with a vector. So it could be stung, spider bites, but that bullseye rash is a key indicator. And I had, my allergy guy told me it was an allergic reaction. It was Lyme disease. Okay. So that was a big thing for me, but I went through hell for a year trying to fix it, the herbal and homeopathic route.
Right. Now, Susan, if I can. So
go.
Thank you for that. So many, first of all, like you have, when you said, the highs and the lows, you live in the mountains, right? You had literally like 100, I'm looking at this sheet of notes, like 100 Mount Everest to climb, right? Losing your mom at an early age, right? Overcoming that, being heavy as a kid. Kids are ruthless.
Ruthless.
I was heavy as a kid, and the bullying and the shaming, sometimes I'm guessing.
Oh yeah.
You don't want to leave your house, right? You're not good at You're not good at sports.
Everybody's making fun of you.
Okay, so
I've been a pretty natural athlete. I was just overweight. I played field hockey, softball. Was always very active. That's genetic within me.
Okay.
The interesting thing, I developed very early on. Very early on. So I would get on the bus and I would have the boys say, here's OPH, overproductive hormones. Like I said, I had the body of a woman
Right.
at the age of 12. And then you add,
Wow.
being overweight, where nobody had developed. I mean,
Right.
so I just stuck out like a sore thumb from everybody else around me, but yet I've always been very athletic. I just couldn't drop anything. I remember going over to Marbles Market, which was next door to my house at the shore, and taking my waitress money and going and buying a Pepperidge Farm, right? We don't have it out here. That's a big one back east.
Love Pepperidge Farm.
The chocolate coconut or the coconut cake.
Oh God.
And right? They're about this big,
And you
right?
could eat the whole. I could eat the whole thing.
I ate the whole thing, Brian. I ate the whole thing and hid the box under my bed more than once
Wow.
until the family was gone and I could take it out to the trash.
Okay. My only other favorite,
Yeah.
my top favorite from there was oh no, that was an Entenmann's thing, the chocolate chip, like pound cake. I could eat one of those, and I could also eat
God.
a box of just chocolate chip cookies.
The Milano cookies. The
Oh my
Milano.
God. Yeah. It's like, why even put the little things in there when I'm going to eat the whole I'm going to eat the whole bag, like, and then they put flavor in them, craziness. Now I have to compliment you. You just keep, and now I understand, so much why you keep giving back, because you keep overcoming and overcoming and overcoming and switching paths and, all these other things. So one question I'm going to ask you is, and you have so much energy, right? You called yourself the Tiny Titan, or right before here. I read that you were 5'1".
I just sound big.
As a police officer, so like, a 5'1" woman going into a police force later in life, right? I didn't even know you could sign up at 36. I thought you had to be in your
Oh, yeah.
20s. So
No.
one area I guess I want to ask, like, I'm excited for this discussion for so many reasons, but I listen to Jay Shetty on the Calm app every morning. And yesterday, as I was telling my girlfriend, he did an 8-minute thing, and the point of it was about, this is why this is so perfect today, your overall wellness and your fitness and how you treat your body and how you eat and how you live and how you sleep and everything. And I don't know what study he related it to, but he basically said, and you would be the far more sophisticated to say this, but my takeaway was, if you treat your body and your mind well and feed it the right things and do all the right thing, on average, you will live 7 years longer than people who don't, right? Now, different studies will say different things. But when I saw my girlfriend last night, and we're like huge fitness people and always eating well and doing all these other things now, I said, wow, our investment, we went to the gym this morning, our investment each day, I plan to live to 100. And I said, it means we're going to outlive everybody who's not doing this by 7 years. So all the challenges you had in life have really, it seems, led to where you are now. My question, with that being said, is during all those challenging times, how did you pick yourself up every day from your mom dying, being overweight, being picked on, all these other things? Because there's just like some levels of brutality of that.
I think there's several things. I've always had really strong faith. I don't do church. I haven't done church in years, but actually just a couple of weeks ago, just reached out to a Episcopalian priest that I became friends with in Montana. I went on a call there and started going to him. And so I still have that. Sometimes I still question. So I reach out to him and go, why is this happening? Right? Especially when you get to the lows. Why is this happening? I'm always questioning. But I think for a lot of those years, I kind of was faking it to make it. And, back in, my mom died in October 79. And it wasn't, let's get some counseling for these kids to make sure they do okay, right? My sister at the time, She became anorexic and bulimic at the age of 10 because of it. I mean, but there was nobody did anything about trying to have some help to deal with this kind of stuff. And so I think for me, that's where the drinking came in. And I was the party girl. That need to fit in. So you do what you have to do to get through. On the inside, like on the outside, it'd be like, everybody would see the smiling, the funny girl. I was the funny one. But nobody knew really what was happening with me. And I don't think I did either. I found a counselor here in, I think it was 1998. I went through several as an adult. And she said, you never grieved to your mother. I said, I'm fine. That was years ago, 18 years ago. And she said, you never grieved for your mother. And I said, trust me, I'm fine. And she forced me to get this book called Motherless Daughters by Hope Edelman. Highly, highly recommend if you've lost your mother, regardless of age, because she goes from early age to later in life, and the differences. And my age range, having lost my mother, was exactly how I behaved. My sister, exactly how she behaved. I opened up that book and I was like, can you just make me read this stupid book? Opened it up, and within the first 2 pages, I soaked the pages. I remember the tears just flowed. That was the beginning of me learning how to work through things. And I mean, this is later in life. Like I'm in my 30s.
So you have all that stuff. Right. Yeah. So you've got all that stuff sitting inside you. And we both know now that you're, such a great therapist, right? You know, that's toxic.
Really toxic.
And could lead to, so thank goodness you found that. And
the body keeps the score, Brian, right? There's a book on it. The body keeps the score. Words matter. All of these things, how we talk to ourselves. And when you're not dealing with things, you're likely not even speaking well to yourself. The body picks up on that. And all this stress, and there's different health types that hold on to the stress more, and that packs the weight on. So we're all so different in how we process things. But the main point I would get across is own your stuff. If you feel it, go with it. Don't hold it back. It's like, it doesn't make you you're stronger to get out and seek the help, whether it's spiritual, energy. And I think going to the energy work was my final key. And that's what I've concentrated a lot on, like spiritual energy. Because while we are as energy, over the last 16 years, I've been divorced because I was married 3 times. And the last time I was like, my picker sucks. And I thought, okay, my picker sucks, but who's the common denominator? Me. What is it with me? To where, I'm going to be in a very, healthy relationship at this point. Very, very different from any other one I've been in because of putting in the work. And when people say, oh, I'm good, I've done the work. Okay, well then you're not good because you're never done doing the work. It's continual. We're always evolving, and you should be evolving, personally, professionally, whatever, and health-wise. So,
I love that. I love that, and I think back to, and then what I've been dying for this discussion, since you were kind enough to make it, and then what I'm so fascinated is your business, but what I want to say is that when you and I being similar age, issues I had faced. During that time, like therapy was it was expensive, and B, it was like going to a witch doctor, right? Nobody ever admitted they were going to a therapist. A psychiatrist was called a shrink. I don't even know, psychology. Like it was just, and I think probably most young people, right? It's not just to us. We all have issues, and unless you're in a family that's, then I think that nuclear family with the white picket fence, which I don't think really exists, of everyone talking and communicating about their problems, that's like idealistic and whatnot. So we build up that toxicity, and your body remembers, and your 100%. Body talks to you, So kudos to you for for getting it out. It's a lifelong process, right? It's never going to stop, for either of us. But what I love for you now, you're already sharing and helping what we're both in the world is of we share this, information for free by letting people listen to it and be inspired by it, right? So now I've got this woman that has climbed all these mountains, is you're bursting with energy, like coming right through the screen. Talk to me about your what you've done, your business. I've never ever heard of it, had anything to do about it. I started to tell my girlfriend about it last night. I'm like, I'm ready to send her my DNA sample, and she's like, go for it. So tell us about this, because it's really so fascinating. And I know, if I'm pretty into the field, so if I don't know about it, I'm guessing a lot of people don't know about it. So I know you can help people just by explaining what it is and how it works.
Sure. One thing I want to touch on first is you talked about how we take care of our body and how that adds longevity. Absolutely. If you treat your body like a trash can, you're going to be garbage. You're going to feel like garbage. You're never going to feel good. And trash, right? It rots. For lack of a better word, right? If I look out at my trash can, right, there's just all the scraps in there. Is that what you want to, like, is that how you want to feel? Or do you want to feel like amazing? So what you're putting in your body, first and foremost, emotionally, what you're feeding it emotionally, what are the types of shows you're watching? Are you watching things that are just all violence, all depressing things? Or are you more cognizant of that? Think about detoxing. Are you, the political stuff right now is so polarizing, and people are on there all day, right? They're tuning in this all day. And they're like, because I've had clients I've worked with that are so stressed out from it. I'm going, don't watch the news. Step away, detox. So detoxing isn't just about not eating crap. But it's not, don't feed the brain so much stuff that's going to fire you up. Find that peace. Find that peace. Your body isn't a trash can. There was a funny meme I saw on Facebook years ago, and it's still one of my classics. And it was like, I treat my body like a temple. Okay, one of those temples in Thailand where they let the monkeys crap all over it. It's like, that's what the majority of people tend to do. And we saw this back in COVID. When you went in, like, all the processed foods were gone. The liquor stores were selling out here in Colorado. Like, it was all the weed, and people were posting. They were so excited. Look at my take from Costco. All the alcohol we're going to be having. And all but the gyms were closed. People are like, oh, now I don't have to work out. And I gained the COVID-15. And I'm going, what? It was choice. It was all choice. So you have the choice.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned COVID. Yeah, interesting that you mentioned COVID, because, I work with a lot of people towards getting towards sobriety. And I mean, I would say the majority of them, well, if they weren't addicted to something before COVID that led to it, or if they were and they had gotten healthy, it was like a relapse waiting to happen. I mean, how could you not, right? You're locked in your house all day. You can't even go outside. You can't enjoy anything. You're watching television, all the things you said, I mean, I think we all fall into that trap. And when you talk about, I was at the gym this morning, and the most addictive device, I believe, ranked number one right now is your iPhone.
Absolutely.
More than anything. And I see people in the gym and, walking up and down the stairs and being fed that information, and, whatever, doesn't matter what party you are on, you're just, it's brutality. So I think you bring a great point to the listeners. It's not just going to the gym. It's not just like, it's the holistic part, and that's what you're doing. So
holistic. It's the whole thing. So I work with, I started out as just a basic holistic health coach. I had everybody paleo, because paleo worked for me at that time. And I thought, it's getting rid of all the crap. Why not have everybody go paleo? I would give them this beautiful paleo cookbook to get them started and everything. And people were feeling better, seeing people results. And my basic program was 6 months long, 12 coaching sessions. And so you had to figure a lot of things out. Let's do the elimination. Start with the paleo. Let's eliminate, see what works, what doesn't. And I'm found out that genetically, I'm very, my predominant hormones are adrenaline and testosterone. Okay, so there's the energy, right? And I have overactive neurotransmitters. I'm wired. And so I am a very high performance, very competitive person. And I believe that we should all feel amazing, not just, I feel good. Why are we not feeling better? So when I came back to Colorado 2018, and I was like, Beachbody coaches are, quote, health coaches. How do I set myself apart, and how do I get better results personally and for my clients? Because I'm always wanting better for my clients. And I went to the Paleo FX conference in 2019, early 2019, and that's where I discovered DNA with Apeiron Zoe. You were very close in that pronunciation there. And so kudos to you there. And did my DNA, and it was like, oh my God, some of this stuff is actually making sense to me now. And it freaked me out. So I thought, I don't bring anything into my coaching program that I have not done myself. So I'm not one that touts. Never.
Listeners are not going to know, because I don't know, when he said you did your DNA, what does that mean and how do you do it?
Sure. So DNA is, to how to do your DNA. So I have a test kit. There's other companies as well. I will put mine up against any of the companies. I have a whole podcast on it, how our DNA differs, DNA testing differs. And so it's a cheek swab. It's a simple cheek swab. And you pop it back in the mail. And so I get the results back. Now, are you asking me what DNA is?
Less so than you did your DNA. I know DNA is kind of the building blocks of our body.
It's our blueprint.
It's your blueprint. Okay.
It's our blueprint. Now, I want to make sure people understand, because my people, when they get their DNA results back, they don't get it until I release it to them. And that's after we meet for 90 minutes to go over it. Because people think that DNA controls the outcome of them. So you see someone, oh my God, I'm going to get Alzheimer's disease. Oh my God, I'm going to die cardiovascular. I have insulin resistance. I'm going to be diabetic. DNA is pure probabilities and propensities. We have control up to 95% of how our DNA expresses. So the key is in the expression. And that's what I work with is genomics is working with getting that DNA to express the way we want it to. So we all have some good and we all have some crappy DNA. We want to dial up the good and we want to dial back or down regulate the DNA that the propensity there isn't so good. And some of it you'll see expressing. We look through labs, you can see, different ways we look at things. And so the DNA, just a cheek swab, but that's your blueprint of how you're created and that you can work with it. It's not, my other platform is precise. DNA, again, it can't tell you, this is exactly what you should eat. And this is the timing that you should be eating. This is when you should be sleeping. This is when you should be using your mind to be creative or to be detail oriented. This is when you should be training. This is the type of training you should actually be doing. And that's my other epigenetic platform called PH360. And that's your user manual. It's AI-based, 15 layers of science. And that one, we don't have to do a cheek swab or anything of this, no blood. That is an onboarding session we do via Zoom, and we do measurements. We measure things like your skull, your jaw from here to here, your hands, your feet, rib cage, neck. It looks for inflammation, but how you're structured lets the algorithm know this is the predominant derm layer that developed in the womb. Thus, these are the predominant hormones that drive this particular health type. And there's 6 different health types. That's your user manual. When I'm done at the end of that, there's an extensive questionnaire that comes after the measurements. And so after that, you have your profile, which is unique. I've had identical twins, identical DNA, different profiles. completely different profiles because their lifestyles were so vastly different. So it's all pertaining to the individual and where you are now. So as you're going through the measurements and the questionnaire, the algorithm is saying, this is where this body needs support at this time. So it changes as you change. I've had the profile for 4.5 years, and foods change seasonally. It's all based on nutrient density, not the damn macros and protein, carbs, and fats. It's all nutrient density to bring your body into balance. So when I coach with people, I'm not focusing on, okay, what's wrong? It's all, okay, body's out of balance. What does this body need to come into balance? What are the great things we can work with here? And people start to learn who they are authentically, what drives these personality types you hear on the Enneagram and everything. It's all biologically driven. And so it's like these light bulbs come off and people feel like they now have, sadly, permission to accept themselves and be who they are. I've always been, oh, you're from Jersey and you're a cop. That's why you're loud, or that's why you're so direct or abrupt, or your delivery sucks, Susan. No, it's because I run on adrenaline and testosterone. It makes me very competitive. People don't like playing games with me because I like to win at all costs. But it makes me very direct. And so I speak before I think. So I have to think about that. It's great in law enforcement. Wasn't so great in relationships. Right? So, but I understand my clients better than they understand themselves, typically before we even start the coaching, understanding who they are and how they're going to respond to things because of how they're wired genetically.
Wow.
And
Wow.
they feel heard. A lot of them, I get people in their 50s, 60s. I have one 82. I have a 73-year-old, and they feel heard for the first time in their lives.
Wow. So,
Without judgment.
I mean, amazing, like,
Yeah.
otherworldly.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you, when understanding, and to be honest, I've been getting much at 57, I'm not going to say it's taken too long because it takes how long it's going to take, right? I've, through my relationship, through lots of things, I've become to get a better understanding of myself, not to the level of doing anything like you're doing, which I would absolutely love, because to get that roadmap to, we all behave certain ways, and to understand the why, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're just saying, like, okay, so if you're that adrenaline testosterone person in different situations, you said it best, right? You're going to have to modify your approach because you know what's coming,
Yep.
right? And writing that email maybe is probably not a good idea, and taking a walk around the
Sit and
block.
stare at it, walk away from it, and then I think about it. It's exactly what I do now. Right before it was like, boom, and then you regret, or the text message.
Yeah. And it reminds me, we're both obviously lifelong learners. I don't know if you're a fan of Mel Robbins. Let them. Okay. That book. I want to talk about you, but that book. I've been reading it. I'm only about halfway through, and my girlfriend picked it up first, and I turned her on to Mel Robbins and the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and everything. She started reading Let Them, and we make each other give each other book reports on
I love it.
books we're reading, right? So we can. And she started to talk to me about Let Them, and then I noticed before I got into it, definitive change, a very positive one, in her dealing with situations, including me, even though I am the perfect boyfriend. That's not true, not even close. So all of a sudden I saw this change. I was like, what's going on here? And I asked the specific question, and she said, I can't tell you how much has changed from Mel. And Mel, by the way, is such a big deal. The Beacon Theater, which is one of the most famous theaters in
I know
certainly
the
New York
Beacon.
City. She sold that out. She's on tour now. She sold that out. The average price of the ticket was like $2,000. She's printing money, but that's not what she's about. But that Let Them. I'm just going to use an example. I had a stressful situation with an old person I had a battle with, and I wrote him a note and I asked for something, and he wrote me a very agitated, not so nice note back. And the old Brian, before Let Them, would have been now engaged and started this war of emails, which I'd still be, this was 2 days ago, I would still be agitated right now in talking to you. And I was so proud of myself because my hands went to the keys, and I've hurt so many relationships by pressing those darn keys. And I just went, don't do it. Don't do it. You know the outcome. Let him get your butt around the block, and then let me decide what to do. And what my decision, Susan, was to do nothing.
Yep. Which is perfectly fine, right?
And now it's over.
They have to do something, and it's done.
And now it's over. And then I actually said to my girlfriend, she brought up a great point. She goes, you know what? Besides being proud of you for doing that, he is now the one who probably feels horrifically guilty because he was the one who was mean to you unnecessarily. And he was waiting for the, sometimes I'm never striking anyone, right? But someone punches you expecting to punch back. But if you don't punch back, like they're the ones who realize like, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. So that's such a, I'm glad and that's for all of our listeners, Run, Don't Walk. It's only on Audible. I'm not getting a piece of Mel's money. But that book is life-changing. That book is life-changing.
It absolutely is. Because I did it this winter. I remember I was going to cross-country ski. That's like an hour away. And I started listening to it. And I'm like, oh my God, listen to it while I skied. I'd be at the gym listening to it. It took me just a few days to get through it. Cooking, my food prep, I'm listening to it. It's a profound difference. And I swear, I'm like, God, she just sounds like an activator. She just sounds like the same thing, how she reacts and how she's just in your face. I have to see, I don't know how tall she is. I have to look and see what she is, but I just resonated with the way she was reacting to things. And it was very much me. And now I'm just like, I don't need to engage in this. I just don't need to always engage. It's okay to not react or to take my time to react. Breathe first. Breath work, so important.
Can you give me
check yourself before you wreck yourself, right?
Check yourself before you wreck yourself. I'm going to put that in the show notes. Talk to me about, and obviously you can keep them anonymous. Tell me some of the really good success stories you've had with individuals that made you really, really proud.
Oh my God. I say that I now save lives in a different way. And that's where I went there, where I did. And I know I need to really condense my life story. It's just so long. It's so hard to condense because there's been so much, but it's led me to where I am. But I said, if I could save one life and make a difference, I literally save some lives as an officer. Well, I'm saving lives now in a different way. I'm helping people learn how to save themselves. And it's the most gratifying thing I've ever done. When I first started coaching, I asked somebody, well, what did you get at the end of this program? And she said, I got my life back. And that has never left me. So I have a client named Eric. He's been on my podcast twice. He's going to come on again. We've been following him. I used him as an example first because he had the absolute worst labs I've seen in all my coaching. I have another woman that's close, but he is the worst. Was the worst. And got him, did his DNA, got him on the PH 360 program right away. He was drinking every night, self-soothing, has a family, 4 kids, his wife. I worked with his wife as well. She got him on to my program because of the success she saw with her. And in 6 weeks, he was in the danger zone in everywhere from lipids, liver enzymes, kidneys. Again, you name it. Insulin resistance, just horrible numbers, very, very high risk. And he said, I don't know that I would be here for my kids in 5 years. And I said, I don't know that you would have made it 5 years, honestly. And he's only in his 40s. And in 6 weeks, we turned his labs around. 6 weeks following.
Wow.
Where other doctors were like, you need to go keto, carnivore, drop all the carbs because your insulin resistance and everything. The PH 360 for his particular health type which is a body that typically has higher cortisol levels, especially in the morning, a lot higher. They store big time under stress. They're more prone, this is a true endomorph, more prone to metabolic syndrome, insulin issues, pancreatic, the thyroid, kidneys, also thyroid, I mean, everything, just name it. And when you put them on these type of really high saturated fat diets, the very high protein, which increases cortisol more, they store more, their labs start to get worse. So the profile for a short period of time, for about 6-7 weeks, takes him to fruit and vegetable, like almost a vegetarian, a high vegetable intake. And a very light meal at night. Dinner is or lunch is the biggest meal. It turns these people around like it's mind blowing. So he is now down 70 pounds since, and this was the last summer. Yeah, he was down. I think it was 66 pounds when I had him on in December, and he started with me like August or September of last year. And his biggest issue is stress. So we're working with some other numbers now, like heart rate variability is very low because they are natural night owls. I told you I was bidding graveyard shifts and everything. Well, me as an activator, a true mesomorph, we're morning people. I was doing CrossFit at night. I should actually, by like 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night, my body's coming down. I shouldn't be doing any activity. So now I do like early afternoon is like prime for me. Hiking in the morning I'm great with, but weight stuff I tend to do better later at midday, and that's optimal for me for optimal body composition and performance. But I'm a morning person. I had no idea. I used to be the last one in the dance floor. Now I'm like, the band starts at 9. Shit, then I can't be asleep at 10. Right? Band starts at 7. I'm gonna go dance a set or two, and then I get to go home and go to sleep. That was never me. Right?
You and me both.
But my body has adapted so much better. I'll recover better. But because of that go, I'm prone to burnout. And it hits me, and I have to dial it back. And that's hard for someone who the number one priority is movement, because we're made for movement, because of that testosterone and adrenaline. Eric, on the other hand, was living like an activator, like me. And he's totally opposite. So we had to dial him back in. He's still dealing with the stress because he works for a company in Europe. He has to be up at 4 a.m. working. Well, he should still be sleeping. And that's the one thing he can't control. So until he can control that, he won't be totally optimal. But all the numbers have gotten back. So that was the great thing. We probably literally saved his life. I have another woman. Yeah. Go ahead.
1 second. So when you get, even you were probably like, when you said you got the worst set of labs you ever saw, right? You're like, well, first off, I guess I want to ask 2 questions, right? A, how does he wind up with you? And then B, when you now see the worst set of labs, right? That's like, I can't imagine like a doctor pulling someone's labs, you're not much different, and telling someone they have 90 days to live, which he may have had. How do you come to you, number one? And then B, when you have such potentially like disastrous information, like the warning signs are here, how do you tell that? I know you're very direct, but I'm sure you have a silver tongue about you. How do you bring that information to someone in a compassionate, thoughtful way that doesn't scare them, but tells them like, you got to do something? I'm really curious.
Yeah, just look and say, this is not going down a good road. Typically, by the time they come to me, they've been working with some type of a provider or somebody that's already, if they have those labs, they're coming to me. Now, I did work for 2.5 years. I just left in March, but I was contracting a couple days a week with a huge thyroid hormone specialist. So I would see a lot of these labs come in. And they didn't concentrate on things like lipids like I do, and the insulin resistance, and they were told a lot of the time, you need to cut your carbs. And I'm like, not for this type. So a lot of people would come onto my program and do the opposite of what typical medicine or even functional medicine is telling them. And this is why personalized health is, they say it's the future, but it's here and I have it. and why we need to know what our specific body needs, because these generic recommendations are wrecking people. You asked how Eric came. So I just basically, I'm kind of blunt about it, but I say, this isn't good, but yet we can get you back. I have a client, he worked with me several years ago, he and his wife, and they're older, they're in their 60s. And he dealt with alcoholism, and he switched over to Diet Coke, about 4 to 5 a day. And we're starting to work together again because it affected his kidneys. And I'm like, yeah, this doesn't look good, but we can get you back. We have the tools. Let's do this. And so that's how I kind of put it, with some that have kind of been resistant to things. I don't work with anybody unless they're ready to make the changes. It's just, I'm not going to waste my time or their time because I'm not doing it for them. They have to want to make the change. And so I'm just like, is this a wake-up call enough for you to see? And, for the majority it is. I had one man contact me after he heard Eric's podcast, and he said, I'm like Eric. I need help. And so I've been working with him. He, on the other hand, was doing a vegetarian diet with his wife, or vegan or vegetarian. And you need protein. You actually need some animal protein. Are you okay eating it? He's like, yeah, I grew up on a farm. I've just been eating like she's been eating. I'm like, it's not doing you any favors, brother. So again, it's one thing that's recommended is not right for everyone. So understanding your makeup, where your body is at this time, that's where the difference is. I've been able to cut that 6-month, 12-session program down for the majority of people to 6 sessions over a couple months. That's a big difference. Now, some people, again, they have more health issues. They have more to deal with. My diplomats and my guardians, they're slower moving, slower thinking. They can't be overwhelmed. We're like activators. We're like, tell me what to do. I'm on it, right? But other ones take more time. So a lot of times they'll stay with me for extra sessions and for that extra support, because it takes them a little bit longer to get going. Once they get going, it's phenomenal. People come to me, I have 8 years on keto, and I thought I was great, but all of a sudden my labs haven't been good. Okay, because that's not your body type. You actually need vegetables. And they're so afraid to eat a vegetable, carbohydrate, a piece of fruit. And they're like, my body has wanted this, I can't believe this. Or they're up training early in the morning, which, what are we told? Get up, get it done first thing in the morning. These bodies, you put so much stress on them in the body with already these high cortisol levels and all this stress, and they're tanked by the end of the day when they should actually have energy. These are your night owls that gain energy as the day goes. And they're tanked early in the morning because they should actually be sleeping at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. Wow. So flipping those things around, it's game changers.
Yeah.
Timing of meals, timing of exercise. That's a big key to longevity. Longevity affects our hormones. Our timing affects our hormones, which affects longevity. Everything, right? If you're training and you're not getting the results, gaining muscle because you've got too much stress going on. We know lean muscle is part of longevity, but not everybody is meant to be, quote, lift. The thing you hear out there, lift heavy shit. Well, not everybody is meant to be lifting heavy stuff. They're just not made for that. They're made more for flow. So understanding you and the mind, for 3 of the 6 health types, the top priority is mind.
Wow.
Right? And if you're just focusing on going to the gym and eating right, that's part of it. But then there's 4 other priorities that aren't being addressed. Social, work, mind, and your environment. For one of them, if their environment's out of kilter, it's creating so much stress they can't drop the weight. If their home's not like a sanctuary, if they don't get their time, their alone time, if they have a lot of clutter, disarray going on, it creates so much clutter in their mind that it's creating all the stress.
Wow.
And that's their number one priority.
Susan, it sound. I mean, I wish every person on the planet had the opportunity to work with you,
Me
because
too.
it sounds like everybody you'd be so busy. A couple questions as we come to our close. Well, first off, bless you, because one of my greatest coaches, and it sounds exactly like you live this philosophy. I'm in sales, so I used to be ruthless about it. It was just all about the money. It's all about the money and all about the money. And this guy pulled me aside and he did me the biggest favor ever. And he said, you know, it was like in my late 20s. And he goes, you know, you know what, it's a great line I use on a lot of my shows because I think it's so powerful, and you do this. He said, you know, he goes, what do you think I'm going to think when I'm on my deathbed? And I was like, seems like a loaded trick question. I'm like, I'm not really sure. And he goes, well, I'll tell you. Here's what I'm going to think about. It's not going to think about the cars I had or the houses I owned or the stuff, whatever. He goes, flashing through my brain is going to be all the faces of people that I helped be the best version of themselves, right? And that will make me, as I take my last breath, I'm so happy, because that's, I believe what we were, you know, I'm not religious at all. What we were put on this earth for is to make it a better place. And that may sound cliche, but I don't care. I make that my life's mission now. I'll let you know. You're of my age. I went to see John Fogerty last night from Creedence
Oh,
Clearwater
wow.
Revival. It was his 80th birthday, and I took my girlfriend. And here's a guy who was, and I say this to the listeners because it's on this exact subject. Here's an 80-year-old man. My father's 85. My girlfriend's father is 86. John Fogerty, who's toured, had the rock and roll lifestyle, done this, done that. He was second to the Beatles in the late 60s as far as the most popular musician on earth. His songs, every single one of them, you and I would know, as
Yep,
would young people.
absolutely.
He is jumping around on stage like he's 25 years old. His two sons and his daughter are in the band with him. His wife of 34 years is on the side. He looks like he's like 65 when he did his thing. He's just going to keep touring.
Yeah.
And I started looking him up, and I'm like, how? That's like abnormal, right? Like, you know, talk about environment, talk about all this other stuff. And I just looked and I went, it can be done, right? It can be done.
Absolutely.
Like, this guy has lived a life, but he, you know, there was never, I was giving my girlfriend a lesson on him. I'm like, he never had, that's documented, any issues with drugs or alcohol. That's huge. He just is so joyful. He's had a
There's the key.
34-year amazing relationship. He's clearly ate well. You never saw John Fogerty be fat. He's very empowered by his children, who are always on tour with him, like they go as a family. So here's a guy that represents that. So I think that's just a great testament. I wanted to ask you, I would imagine, wouldn't every sports team benefit from working with you? And why aren't they?
I know. Because again, I just don't think they know it exists. That's one of the reasons I started my podcast, was to get the word out about personalized health.
Okay.
And that's what I'm trying to do. Because, I worked with a college athlete, a basketball player, a couple of years ago. And the coach he was working with at the time, they were the same health type, and this one health type, he's all about, you know, he said, it's all about the fascia and all about the mind. And I said, well, mind is the top priority, but you're having him go to bed, you're okay with him going to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning and getting up at 10. He's going to be suboptimal. So he needs to be in bed about 10 o'clock, and he needs to be getting up earlier. And so when I would meet with him, he said that changed his performance. And, you know, when you have a guy, you know, that's 21 years old, 22 years old, it's all just, and you're an athlete, just eat the calories. Well, he was eating a lot of processed stuff. And so when he looked at the food list, I'm like, you do the food prep. Take the time to do some of the food prep. And he started cooking better meals. And he said that he felt a marked difference and was able to gain, they told me he had like a short amount of time to put on, I think it was like 15 pounds of lean muscle. He got it put on.
Wow.
But he was sleeping better. He felt more energy, because again, the timing people don't think about. And I said,
Right.
you need to be eating 3 meals, 2 snacks a day. You need the complex carbohydrates, but not in the form of all the bread. Let's get them in healthier forms that
Right.
are according to the nutrient density that your body needs when you're training twice a day.
Yeah.
And that was what his profile showed him.
Yeah, you seem like my highest compliment. You're like one-stop shop, right? Professional sports teams have a sleep coach and a nutrition coach and this coach. Like, what would happen if you called your I don't know what sport you're into, but you're in Denver, right? So what if you called the Denver Broncos and said, "Hire me, and I will guarantee you like legitimate goals and achievements in X amount of time." Like, is that
I
one of
never
your
thought
missions?
about that. I have
Okay.
never thought about that. But
Okay.
as much as I love athletics, I mean, it's what I'm made for. That's quite an intriguing road to go down.
Yeah. Or I mean,
Yeah.
start with Division III
Yeah.
colleges and say, give me 6 weeks to work with your team, and I guarantee you will have better
Yeah.
success because everybody could use this.
The only problem with the collegiate is, again, they're in a college atmosphere. And that they're going to be harder. And that was a hard thing for him. He's like, well, and he was drinking like 12. He would go out and binge drink, like, this is not helping you, so he started dialing it back. But it's that atmosphere. If they're living in a dorm or something, it's harder for them. But adults, out of that type of a scenario are going to do better because they have the ability to make better choices than the peer pressure in their 20s, in their early 20s, in a college atmosphere. That was one thing I noticed with him and some others,
Right.
as opposed to some older. I've worked with a competitive cyclist. He did great. He's also a firefighter and competitive mountain biker. That was his big thing. Was
Okay.
mountain biking. So we worked on getting his stuff together. I also worked for True Diagnostics, and they're an epigenetic age testing company. They're fantastic. And I did interpretations for them for a year and a half. And so I would get biohackers, that are like, why are my labs still off? I'm doing all the things that David Sinclair, Peter Attia, all these guys are saying are right. Dave Asprey. And I go, your timing's totally off. Or this isn't actually ideal for you. And I even have another podcast that we did on how different biohacks and why they're not right for everybody, or why timing they're telling you isn't right for everybody. We're also individual. So if you're on there listening to these podcasts, trying to do everything they're saying doing, and you're not feeling better, then some of these things just aren't for you. And that's okay. You're not going to put me in a cold plunge, ever. I don't tolerate cold. There's just some things that don't work for everybody.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's you understanding your body the most. And the influencers, the quote experts, they don't know you. They know their research, and again, their research isn't taking into account how you're created. Right? They just see this worked for the majority of people. I mean, you're going to have, for any given exercise program, you're going to have like 40% of the people, 40-60% not respond. And we see that with what we call the diplomat. They're your biggest non-responder. They're the ones that are told, get up early, and now you're being lazy, and you're going to stay fat because you're being lazy. You need to work harder. And they're like, I am busting my butt, and I'm doing everything. It's like, yeah, you're not eating right things, and you're especially not doing you're not doing the right things at the right times. Or you're eating too
Wow.
much. A body that stores more, I blow through food. I need to eat more frequently. Where they don't, unless they're doing specific high training and we adjust for that. Otherwise, they don't need as much food as they think. They do fine with intermittent fasting, where intermittent fasting about wrecked me for a year. It put weight on me. I wasn't eating enough to fuel all my activity.
okay.
And for them, they're not doing, the majority of them when they come to me they're too tired to do anything. But yet they're told you need to be eating all this protein, and they're like throwing protein shakes in all day, protein bars, which are like candy bars. It's just a sad nightmare. But
Yeah.
I'll get people that are at the end of their rope saying, I have spent thousands and thousands of dollars and I've tried everything and here I still am. Or I'll get the biohacker that's like, I think I'm doing everything, but I just want to make sure if there's something that's off, or if there's something I could do better. And the other thing I love with the DNA, it helps me kind of hone in on supplements, because everybody's got the supplement graveyard of stuff that, well, I heard it was good. I don't know why I just heard it was good. Do you really need it? So let's dial in the ones that you absolutely need. And you can play around with some other stuff, but don't spend so much. Most people spend $1,000 a month on supplements that they don't need, or they're overtaxing their liver trying to, process it all. So that's what I like to do.
Oh, I love it. Well, as we're going to come to a close here, because I could talk to you all day, and I hope we have a recurring thing here, because there's so much information. So my takeaway, and what I would say to anyone listening to this, is my take on this is people should go to you or someone like you first, because I'm already thinking for myself. I was a bodybuilder when I was a kid. I do the protein thing. I've got a bag full of supplements that my girlfriend the other asked, she was like, can you explain? And she took out each bottle as an exercise. Why are you taking this? And I'm like, because I read somewhere. And she goes, read what? I'm like, this makes me more physically active for your pleasure. And she's like, really? And I'm like, no. Anyway, people should come to you first to get that foundational blueprint. And then, right, because then you can point them in directions and say, you work with a therapist like this for your mental health, like work with and then shoot you off to different places. So you're really changing the way, honestly, after 57 years, I'm thinking about this. So I feel like people should start with you and get that blueprint, because I'm a classic example of someone who is not doing this right. In my bodybuilding days, it was just the plan was, you've heard this, right? At least 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight, and that's how you get bigger.
Yeah.
Well, that probably works for some people,
not for
but
everybody
not
else.
for everybody, right? But they just, Muscle and Fitness says this is what you need to do. So I know I could benefit. You should have too many clients. Every sports team in every league should be your client, and then you just need to develop agents who could help you do this and grow your business.
I actually have other coaches that are ready to go, that are certified PH360 coaches. I have one coming on. I have so many contacts through what I do, the groups that I have worked with that are ready to go and help.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can take as many people come to us. I do the what my jam is doing the PH360 and the DNA together. That's complete, right? That's giving you all the information. I'm not cheap. It's an investment
In your life.
It is an investment in your life. People have no problem going dropping, $100,000 on a car, but they're like, oh, a couple thousand to do a health program? Okay. Do you want to be around to drive that car? Do you want to, it's quality of life. If you lose, and this is what the takeaway from 2020 should have been, the whole COVID thing, if you lose that quality of life, what do you have? Not much.
Nothing.
And it's priceless, right? So the DNA is a hefty out of pocket for me. That's my issue there. So, that's my jam, is I love to do the two together. That's what I'm about. But I can do the PH360 on its own. I have a gal that came to me yesterday who was working with the thyroid hormone person, and she said, there's things that aren't changing. Something's off. And she said, I've already had DNA done through another company. And I said, well, I can look at that. But what she was looking for, I said, because she was like, should I do more DNA testing? That was her thing. And I said, no, I think you should do the PH360. And she said, oh my God, this sounds like my missing piece. And that's what everybody says. And so she's coming on. We're onboarding her next week to do just the PH360. But she has DNA I can tie in. It's not as thorough as mine, so we may actually do extra DNA. And then I can do the DNA testing, one and done. I don't coach off DNA because it's not precise enough. Why would I do that when I have a user manual? So if you want the blueprint and the user manual together, that's what I love to do. And I will at some point, when things get too busy again because I've burned out from too much business, is have my other coaches do like DNA one and done, or do just the PH 360 only work.
Okay.
So where I will eventually be doing just the two together, which is what I love to do. But I love doing all of it. So, and right now, I do have room in my schedule to help anybody with wherever they are. My consults are all free. I do Zoom or I do phone calls to just see if we're a fit. Because again, you need to be ready. We have to feel the vibe where someone is. If someone's still very resistant and they're dabbling, it's not time. And that's okay. The gal that I just signed, she contacted me the first time in December. And she was just like, let me get back to you because I'm not sure what I want to do. And we didn't even have a consult. It was just a couple emails back and forth. And she said at this time, she said, I have the money that I want to put in the right way now. The other program, I think I'm done. I don't need that program, but I need what you do. And I think that's the thing is people want to invest in the things that are going to take them where they want to be at this time, instead of just throwing money out there because an influencer says they can help them. Yeah. And that's the big difference is you have to find someone that wants to help you with who you are and what your specific needs are. So it is like a one-stop shop, but it's all, you can reach out to me for a consult and I'm super, super communicative.
Okay. So well said. Tell, and I'm going to put in the show notes, obviously, but tell people how they can get in touch with you, and where they can get in touch with you, and obviously I'll put those links in there.
Sure.
And then we'll always close with what we always like to close, like you kind of do, like what's the one thing if someone's invested in listening to you and learning, that people can take away from.
Sure. I think the biggest thing to take away from me or working with me is to accept, love, and be your most authentic self. If you don't know what that is, come and talk to me. Because a lot of us don't know. We've just been programmed to be who we are. And one of another saying or quote that I had seen that really has stuck with me, and I'll probably butcher it, but was, on the day you die, the person you are or have become will meet the person you could have been. And I think that is all right. I don't know why like that sat with me. I was like, oh, that gave me, I just got goosebumps, Brian. But it is. Have we lived fully? And if you're just existing, feeling like the daily grind, I'm getting old, so I'm aching. I'm sorry, but getting older doesn't mean you should be achy and having trouble moving around and putting on weight. Age is not part of that. I'm here to prove that, right? It's just owning who you are, being authentic, and that will bring you joy when you embrace who you are. And because you had mentioned joy. How to reach me, you can go to my website, which is Healthy Awakening, no S at the end, so one awakening, healthyawakening.co. I'm not .com, so it's a .co. You can email me through there. You can email me directly through Susan at healthyawakening.co. If you put .com, it's going to come back to you. You can check out my podcast, which you can get on my website, or go to everydayepigenetics.co. The podcast is Everyday Epigenetics, raw, real, relatable. So it's everything lifestyle and environment, how it relates to our genetics expression, and it's relatable to the everyday person. So I'm not the deep dive science where people are like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. I have to look up all these terms. Try to make it my guests, myself. I have a new co-host starting with me Monday. She's fantastic, Kate King. And she is based with epigenetics and trauma. And she's a therapist. So really just two different points of view coming together. It's going to be fantastic. So you can go to that and kind of learn more about what I do and how lifestyle really affects everything. Because you can take all the meds, all the hormones, you can do all of that. But if you do not dial in your lifestyle, it isn't going to matter. You will never be optimal. Lifestyle is the key. So reach out to me, email me. I'm on Facebook with there's Healthy Awakening Epigenetic Coaching, or you can find me on Facebook, and it's Susan Robbins in Loveland, Colorado. And I'm on Instagram as Susan Robbins _epigenetic coach. And you can message me through any of those as well. Like I said, I'm easily accessible.
Fantastic. Well, Susan, this has been an education, to say the least, an inspiration. I'm questioning so many things about my life right now.
That's a great takeaway, though, right?
It is.
Takeaway is start questioning. That's what I want to bring out to people. Am I really doing the right stuff? Why do I feel this way? Why does something still feel off? Or why I'm told not to do this, but when I do it, it feels really good. I'm told not to eat vegetables, but I feel better when I do, right? Like, maybe we have to pay attention to these things and ask these questions. Be curious about you.
Be curious. And also, one big takeaway is I coach a lot of younger people. I'm still have my full-time job, so I coach, philanthropically, high school kids and a lot of young salespeople and whatnot. But it makes me question in a good way that I'm not, of course I'm listening to them, right, and trying to give them a custom blueprint, not science-based like you're doing, but like in my business base of like, this is the type of seller this is, and we're all not cut out of one mold. So I'm practicing it in the best way I can, but just listening to you and being inspired from you wants me to get so much better, and really dive into who the person is and how I could help them. And I think this is like the next step in that. So
it's biologically driven, right? Because some people, not everybody's cut out for sales.
Nope. And
you have your few that are.
Right. Yeah. I've hired and fired so many and made lots of mistakes, and I've also been hired and fired, a whole bunch more times than I can possibly count and, whatnot. So, but everybody, but the help I can give people now just off this conversation is much more fine-tuned to, first off, listening a lot more. And then, thinking about perhaps advising them, to reach out to you or for me to learn what you do, and
that's what I was thinking too. And I am certified to do this in the corporate realm as well. When you bring personalized health into the corporate realm, people understand their roles. Are they in the right role? Are you having meetings at the right time? You wonder why people come in dragging their butt into an early morning meeting and they're not sharp yet. Is that optimal for everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, all these corporations or companies, they give these, the Enneagram and the ISTJ, I can't remember all of it, but it's all biologically driven. And so again, when we all understand each other, you see a bigger rise in presenteeism, the absenteeism, the presenteeism and absenteeism, they both drop, right? Significantly in the first couple of weeks. Presenteeism is people showing up, but they're just there, right? They're present, but they're not present, fully present. And the absenteeism, we know people, like 75% of doctor visits or more are for stress-related illness. So again,
makes sense.
If you're doing the right things at the wrong time or the wrong things at the wrong time, you're putting a lot of stress on this body, on this brain, and yet we're expected to perform. So the more you know, there's a takeaway. The more you don't know what you don't know until you know it.
Yeah. Right? I mean, I interviewed a gentleman the other day. I'm going to launch him soon. He runs a management consulting firm. And he gave me a statistic that he said 60% of employees in general are completely disengaged when they're in the office.
There's the presenteeism. That's it.
Right. Yeah. So imagine that. Yeah, it's crazy. It's completely backed. So
people
Susan,
need to feel good. Thank you so much.
And you make them feel good. So thank you so much for your time, for sharing all this information. I would encourage anyone listening, including myself and everyone I know, to run, don't walk to your business. Overwhelm Susan. If
Please
you're the
overwhelm me.
if you're the general manager of a sports team, contact her. You're going to be better. If you're a college athlete who's seeking a multi-million-dollar career, and you can make more money on your contracts, you should be contacting Susan and start that off, because everybody can benefit from your services. So you are one of a kind.
Thank you.
That is for
Thank
sure.
you. Stay in
So,
touch. For sure.
I will.
Yeah.
So listeners, thank you so much for listening in to this episode of Owning the Goal. You can always reach out to me at brian@owningthegoal.com. Find us on your favorite podcasting platform, on Spotify, on Apple, iHeart, all those. I like to publish a lot of these on YouTube. I hope I can put us up on YouTube because you're so charismatic. And as we grow the listenership, this is such a great example of, if this discussion helps one person, I feel we both did our job and spent our time well. So thank you so much.